Before we crack open tonight's cursed can of content, I just want to say a big thank you to all our subscribers, and an extra sinister shout out to the loyal members of the Sinister Elite. You legends help keep the darkness alive. If you're enjoying the stories and want to take it a step further, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and consider joining the Sinister Elite by clicking that join button below. Members get access to creepy custom emojis and exclusive Sinister Elite badges that level up the longer you survive with us. It's like loyalty, but spookier. All right, lights off, headphones in, and let's summon something we'll all regret. I applied to PetSmart because I thought it'd be easy. I mean, I like dogs. I used to have a parakeet named Shakira who whistled the Golden Girls theme. I figured the night shift would be chill, stock some chew toys, maybe scoop some poop, and pocket that sweet minimum wage with no customer drama. I was wrong. Day one started normal. I got a blue vest with a weirdly shiny name tag that said Logan, even though I wrote LJ on my application. Nobody seemed to care. My manager was a wiry dude named Russ. He looked like a Guy Fieri stunt double who'd just survived a lightning strike. Spiky bleach blonde hair, bloodshot eyes, and a Diet Coke can glued to his hand 24/7. "You'll love nights," Russ said, slapping me on the back with the energy of a Labrador who'd just discovered meth. "It's peaceful. Just don't bother the birds. They remember everything." "Right," I muttered. "And I definitely won't let the turtles unionize either." He didn't laugh, just blinked hard and walked away. The first few hours were uneventful. I organized dog sweaters, stocked fish flakes, and tried not to think about how the chinchilla cage smelled like hot feet and sadness. At 11:57 p.m., Russ radioed me from the manager's office. His voice was low and weirdly calm. "Hey, LJ, before I forget, there's just one rule, okay?" I paused by the display of novelty cat wine. "Yeah? Don't look at the animals in aisle 7 after midnight." I let out a short laugh. "Okay, haha. But real talk, Russ, there is no aisle 7. "Exactly." Click dead silence. I waited a few seconds expecting a just messing with you follow-up. None came. By 12:10 a.m. I was convincing myself he was just trying to haze the new guy. I mean, PetSmart doesn't exactly scream eldritch horror. The scariest thing in there was a chinchilla with an attitude, and the fact we sold dog cologne. Still, when I passed by the fish tanks around 12:28, the store felt off. The overhead lights buzzed louder than usual. The air was thicker, and there, between aisle 6 and 8 was something that hadn't been there before. Aisle 7. It looked like the others. Fluorescent lighting, tile floor, wire racks. But it was weirdly long. Too long. Like the kind of long that doesn't fit in the dimensions of a normal building. And it was stocked. Cages lined both sides. But I couldn't tell what was inside. It was like my eyes refused to focus on them. I squinted. The animals were still, breathing, I think, but obscured in shadow, even under the lights. And then one of them looked up, not just turned its head, not just glanced. It locked eyes with me. A dog, maybe? No, too tall. Its eyes weren't even the same size. One looked normal, the other was too big. Like a novelty eyeball from a Halloween store, but wet and moving. It blinked sideways. I took a step back. Something shifted in a cage behind it. Another shadow. 2 tiny glints reflected the overhead lights. Eyes. Watching. Unblinking. They all were. Every cage down the aisle. Facing me now. I turned and booked it to the break room. I must have sat in there for 20 minutes, heart hammering, breathing into a bag of hamster bedding like it was my therapist. I swore I wouldn't go back near it. That resolution lasted about 3 seconds when the intercom buzzed overhead. "Clean up. In aisle 7. The voice wasn't Russ. It wasn't anyone. It sounded like what a ferret might sound like if it learned how to talk and immediately started smoking Virginia Slims. "Clean up in aisle 7. The words repeated. Again and again, each time louder. Faster. I yanked the break room phone off the hook. Nothing. I radioed Russ. No response. I tried to leave the store. The automatic doors wouldn't open. Just buzzed and flashed red. By 1:13 a.m., the only sound in the store was my own breathing in that damn intercom, now whispering the word cleanup in a voice that sounded like it was right behind my left ear. I finally grabbed a mop and decided to just go check. Dumb? Sure. But I figured if this was part of some bizarre corporate loyalty test, I'd at least get promoted to assistant ferret wrangler or something. I stepped into aisle 7 again, slowly. It was quiet now. No whispering. No weird animal noises. The cages were still. Then I noticed something strange at my feet. A trail of pinkish sludge leading between the cages. It looked like someone had spilled a smoothie made of raw meat. I followed it with my mop, muttering to myself like a lunatic. Cool. Yeah. Totally normal. Just some haunted deli soup in a pet store. That's when I heard it. Click. Scrape. Click. Scrape. From the far end of the aisle. A leash was dragging itself across the floor. No hand holding it. No dog. Just the leash. It stopped moving when I looked directly at it. Then all the cages unlatched at once. The sound of 30 cages unlatching at once is a sound I'll never forget. It's not loud. It's not cinematic. It's casual. Like someone popped open 30 soda cans at the same time, except instead of carbonation, it was whatever the hell lived in those cages slipping into the world. I stood, frozen, mop still in hand, while the shadows inside the cages moved. Slow and unnatural. I didn't hear any paws, no flapping wings, just soft thuds, like wet socks hitting tile. The leash that had been dragging itself? Gone. I backed out of aisle 7, keeping my eyes low, doing my best not to meet any gazes. I didn't even care what was in those cages anymore. Every instinct screamed, don't look, don't acknowledge. One rule. Just one rule. And I already screwed it up. I made it back to the front of the store. Lights were dim now. Not off, just dimmer, like someone adjusted the brightness on reality. I couldn't even see out the front windows anymore. It was just a blurry wall of gray. Then I noticed the grooming room door. We don't have a grooming room on night shift. It was never open, but now it stood wide, casting a soft, warm light across the tile. The light flickered like candlelight, but the room beyond didn't look right. Too narrow, too long, and the smell. It didn't smell like dog shampoo and wet poodle. It smelled like sawdust, formaldehyde, and cornflakes. All wrong. A shadow moved behind the door. Then I heard footsteps. High heels, maybe? Clicking rapidly across tile. A woman walked out. She wore a PetSmart vest, but it was old, like vintage 2003 old, faded red, embroidered with the name Manager Rhonda in bright white letters. But here's the thing. Her face looked like a mask someone forgot to finish. Too smooth in the middle, lips painted on like a doll. Her eyes were just blank plastic orbs with pupils drawn on in Sharpie. She walked right past me and whispered, "Don't worry, hun. We're just trimming the edges." Then she pushed a cart past me. Inside the cart, a cat carrier. But there wasn't a cat in it. It was full of eyeballs, real ones, rolling around like marbles. Some blinked. I dove into the break room and slammed the door shut. Of course, the lights flickered in there too now. The break room fridge started vibrating like something was trapped inside it. The microwave made a sound I'm pretty sure microwaves aren't allowed to make. Something like a growl, but metallic. I sat in the corner next to the vending machine and pulled my phone out. 1:51 a.m. No signal. I opened the employee manual on a whim, flipping past the section on how to identify pet aggression and what to do during a tornado drill. And there it was. An entire page I hadn't noticed before. Page 47. Midnight Emergency Protocols for Overnight Staff. Eyes only. If aisle 7 appears, do not engage with the animals. Do not make eye contact. Do not attempt to feed them. They feed themselves. If the grooming manager appears after midnight, do not speak to her. She is not Rhonda. Rhonda retired in 2004. If you hear barking but no dogs are present, check the kennel cameras. Count the tails. If the number is different from the number of dogs, do not enter the room. If the intercom says, "Clean up in aisle 7, you have 5 minutes. Leave the store if possible. If not, hide in the fish section and unplug the bubblers. If the animals begin to speak in unison, lie flat, cover your ears, and do not respond. They are conducting a vote. You do not want to know the results. If an employee named Dennis shows up, he's been dead since 2011. Offer him a beg-in strip and walk away slowly." The break room lights went out completely. That's when I heard panting, heavy, wet panting, right outside the break room door. It scratched. Once, twice. Then something whispered in a voice like sandpaper being dragged across a chalkboard. "You saw us. You're part of it now." I shoved the vending machine against the door just as it started to open. The lights flicked back on. A single tennis ball rolled into the room, leaving a bloody smear across the tile as it passed. 2 a.m. Still 4 hours till sunrise. And I wasn't alone anymore. I checked the break room monitor, the one connected to the store's security cams. I watched as aisle 7 expanded, like it was growing, shelf by shelf. It was now halfway across the building, stretching into space that didn't exist yesterday. And standing at the edge, that same leash, floating midair, waiting. The thing about night shifts is that time doesn't feel real. By 2:30 a.m., the minutes stopped making sense. My phone would flicker between 2:31 and 2:29 like it couldn't decide what year it was. The security feed kept rewinding itself in 10-second loops, and every time it reset, something in aisle 7 was closer. The floating leash now stood upright, like a spine. At 2:47, the intercom crackled again. But this time, it didn't say cleanup. It said, "The Reptile King will now take audience." I wasn't even surprised. At this point, the phrase, "the Reptile King," felt only slightly more absurd than the haunted meat-leaking tennis ball still staining the break room tile. The store dimmed even further. Then the temperature dropped. I saw my breath fog in front of my face, like I'd stepped into a walk-in freezer full of judgmental snakes. A low hiss echoed through the vents. I left the break room, slowly, carefully. The air in the main aisles was thick, not with fog, with static. Every surface shimmered slightly, like the store was buffering. I passed the fish section. The tanks were empty. The fish weren't gone. They were just pressed up against the glass like stickers staring outward, frozen mid-swim. One of them mouthed something I swear looked like "run." When I rounded the corner to the reptile section, it had changed. The shelves were gone. In their place was a throne made entirely of stacked glass aquariums, each with a single frozen lizard inside. Atop the throne sat something. It looked almost human. Almost. It wore a PetSmart vest stretched too tight across its torso, arms too long, knees bent the wrong way. Its skin was mottled green and beige, like a bearded dragon crossed with a substitute teacher. Its eyes were pure black, but flicked sideways every few seconds like a gecko's. And it was wearing a paper crown. One of those cheap cardboard ones you get from Burger King, but taped together in the middle and stained with what looked like ketchup? I hoped it was ketchup. The Reptile King spoke without opening his mouth. "You broke the rule." His voice came from the vents, the intercom, the flapping of a parrot's wings somewhere above me. I said nothing, just stood there, mop in one hand, my soul doing the Macarena in the fetal position. "Eye contact invites attention," he hissed. "And now, you have it." I wanted to cry, or scream, or punch the king in the lizard jowls and sprint out of the store yelling, "Unsubscribe!" But I stayed still. He sniffed the air. "You carry scent of aisle. You saw the leash." I nodded, just once. He leaned forward slowly, unblinking. "Do you know who walks the leash?" I shook my head. He smiled. A second mouth opened sideways across his neck, rows of tiny teeth twitching like antennae. "You will." The store lights turned red for exactly 10 seconds. Just pure, burning crimson. Like a film strip got replaced with a fire alarm. When the lights turned back to normal, the Reptile King was gone. So were the tanks. So was the static. Everything looked normal. Stocked. Clean. Even the mop bucket was upright again. I heard clapping behind me. Slow. Mocking. Russ stood near the dog food aisle, sipping his infinite Diet Coke. "Congrats, LJ," he said, voice flat. "He doesn't take audience with just anyone." "You knew," I said, breath catching in my throat. "You knew all this crap was happening, and you still hired me?" Russ shrugged. "Look, most people quit before aisle 7 shows up. You made it past the grooming room and the king. That's at least a 3-star rating on Yelp. Maybe even a raise." I stared at him, completely unblinking. "A raise?" He nodded. 75 cents. Maybe $1 if you make it past what's coming at 3:33. I checked my watch. 3:26 a.m. 7 minutes until... "What?" I asked. He wouldn't say. He just handed me a small brown paper bag labeled emergency snack and said, "If it talks to you, don't feed it after midnight." Then he walked into the grooming room, and the door vanished behind him. The intercom kicked on again. This time it just whispered one word, over and over. "Closer." I turned slowly toward aisle 7. It had grown. It now extended to the ceiling. No top shelf, no roof, just sky. A black, cloudy void overhead, swirling like bathwater going down a cosmic drain. The leash was gone. In its place was a collar. And the floor beneath it? Wet. Slippery. Like someone had mopped it with melted fur and regret. I could hear footsteps. No. Not footsteps. Paw steps. Heavy. Rhythmic. Coming my way. The paw steps were slow, deliberate, and soaked in authority. Each one echoed across the tile like a judge's gavel. Not clack-clack. More like slop-slop. Whatever was coming left wet prints that sizzled as they dried, like blood trying to evaporate before it could be blamed for something. I pressed myself into a clearance bin full of mismatched dog costumes, heart pounding so loud it could have summoned coyotes from 3 counties over. Then I heard it. The voice. Low. Growling. Feminine. "You were told not to look, pet." It came from inside aisle 7, but also somehow from above the store, inside the vents, and behind my own teeth. "You saw us, so now we see you." I slowly peeked over the bin. There she was. The dog walker. She looked like a woman at first glance. Tall, lean, dressed in a vintage PetSmart apron covered in faded, "Ask me about our grooming specials" buttons. But her legs bent wrong. Her feet were padded like paws, leaving scorch marks where she stepped. In one hand, she held a bundle of tangled leashes, at least a dozen, and every single leash was pulling hard in a different direction. Except, there were no dogs at the other end. Just air. Air that barked. She sniffed the air, then froze. Her eyes, all 5 of them, locked on the bin I was hiding in. "Found you." I bolted, ripped through the cat toy aisle like a mouse in a meth lab, knocking over towers of scratching posts and one truly cursed fur-real robotic kitten that turned its head 180 degrees to watch me pass. The sound of dragging leashes echoed behind me, smacking against tile. I glanced back once. Huge mistake. The leashes were moving on their own now, slithering, reaching. One had a collar that snapped open and shut like a bear trap. I dove into the ferret tunnel display, crawling through plastic tubes that were not rated for grown men having panic attacks. Something brushed my ankle. Not a paw, not a hand, more like a tail dipped in teeth. I kicked and scrambled until I tumbled out near the registers, slamming into the front counter. My name tag popped off and skidded across the floor. The dog walker stood at the edge of the reptile section, tilting her head. Her leashes writhed like a nest of snakes that had recently been fired from their jobs at Hell Petco. "You don't belong here, pet," she snarled. I held up the paper bag Russ had given me, the emergency snack. She stopped, paused, sniffed again. "Is that beggin' strips?" The leashes twitched. One of them whimpered. Without thinking, I tore the bag open and hurled the contents toward her like a desperate raccoon throwing trail mix at a jogger. It wasn't beggin' strips. It was rawhide, but it was pulsing. Each stick throbbed like a heartbeat. One of them opened an eye. The dog walker dove for it. The leashes screamed. I ran. By 3:32 a.m., I was hiding inside the dog bath station, crouched behind a half-full tub of oatmeal shampoo and something labeled beef cologne. My phone buzzed for the first time in hours. A single text message from a number I didn't recognize. "Don't move. Don't make a sound. She's voting." I didn't breathe. Outside the room, I could hear the dog walker whispering to someone or someone's. How many saw? One. How many saw and looked? One. He broke the rule. He looked. Then a chorus responded. Dozens of voices. Birds, dogs, snakes, fish. Some didn't sound like animals at all, but more like water talking to itself in reverse. They all said, "Vote. Guilty. Clean up in aisle 7. I ran before the sentence could be carried out. The store had changed again. It wasn't just bigger, it was deeper. The aisles now looped into each other like a maze, twisting vertically, like a staircase made of pet beds and kibble bags that defied physics. The back wall had vanished. In its place was a dark hallway with a glowing exit sign that flickered between exit and exhibit. I had no plan, no backup, and no faith in humanity, but I ran toward it anyway. As I reached the threshold, a parrot flew down from the ceiling and landed on my shoulder. Its beak clicked open and it whispered in my dead uncle's voice, "You've got one chance, kid. The bunny room." The what? The bunny room. Room full of bunnies. Run or be groomed. 3:33 a.m. The intercom buzzed. Clean up in progress. And the lights died. The moment the lights went out, the store stopped pretending it was real. The tile floor turned soft. The walls flickered like bad reception. The smell of kibble, shampoo, and ferret piss was replaced by something much older. Wet fur and electricity. I still had the parrot on my shoulder. It was breathing heavily like it had just finished a pack of Marlboros. "Go," it croaked. "Bunny room's your only shot. But don't look at the bunnies. Don't talk to them. And for the love of seeds, if one of them offers you a coupon, run." So I ran. The store looped like a nightmare carousel. I passed aisle 7 twice, once upside down. I passed Russ's office, where the door was now just a hole with hair growing around the frame. I passed a family of Yorkies singing a church hymn in reverse. Finally, I found it. The bunny room. It looked harmless. Bright, pastel-colored walls, posters of smiling kids holding cartoon rabbits, a giant "Adopt Me" banner that smelled faintly of syrup and Febreze. I stepped in, and all 50 rabbits turned their heads at once. Snap. Every cage creaked open like it was waiting for me. I kept my eyes down. They didn't hop. They didn't twitch their noses. They stood, on 2 legs, each one wearing a tiny blue PetSmart vest with no name tag. The first bunny approached me. It had a scar across its snout and a piercing in one ear. "Do you accept our loyalty program?" Its voice was weird, too calm, like Siri got possessed by a televangelist. I shook my head. It stepped closer. Declining savings is declining us. I didn't respond, just kept walking, eyes low, trying to find the next door out. Another bunny leapt in front of me. "We have bundles. Bundles save lives. Would you like to see our bundles?" Its paw touched my shoe. My body locked up. The other bunnies gathered, slowly encircling me. "You looked at us," one whispered. "You judged us," hissed another. "You never bought the hay refill pack," a third one sneered. "That's why your parakeet died." "How do you—" I started, then slapped a hand over my own mouth. They all froze. He spoke. The floor split open. I dropped into a pit full of PetSmart name tags. Thousands of them. floating in air like confetti from an employee massacre. All the names were scratched out, except one. Logan. Mine. I grabbed it instinctively and found myself back on solid ground. The bunny room was gone. I was in the parking lot. It was morning. Birds chirping, sun out, front doors open. Customers walking in with sleepy golden retrievers and empty fish tanks. Russ stood beside me sipping his Diet Coke. "You did good," he said. I stared at him. I hallucinated 500 things and almost got adopted by a cult of rabbits. Russ nodded. "That's night shift." I looked at the building. It was normal again. No aisle 7, no throne. Just PetSmart. Russ reached into his vest and handed me something. A new name tag. LJ. Night Manager. I started laughing. Loud. Too loud. "Wait," I said, panic dawning. "If I'm the night manager now, what are you?" Russ smiled. His eyes blinked sideways. "I'm off the clock." Then he walked into the daylight and vanished. That was 2 weeks ago. Every night I clock in, I see flashes of the old store behind the shelves. Sometimes aisle 7 flickers in and out of view near the chew toys. Sometimes the grooming room whispers my name. And sometimes the bunnies leave little business cards in the break room with the words, "Bundle up, we're coming back." I don't know what happens if I quit, but I know one thing. I never make eye contact after midnight.